Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wired for Logic podcast. I'm Wes Ulmer with LogicWire AI, and I have my guest today, Joe Terracina. He's a multi-unit franchise owner, and he also does business consulting. Joe and I have been working together for a number of years, and so I wanted to have him on the podcast today to kind of discuss his business journey and his transition kind of from running his businesses on the franchise side of things to more of doing business coaching and kind of giving back to the business community. Kind of take it from there, Joe.
Yeah, my background, I guess, is and how I got into what I did. That's kind of where you want me to go from here.
Do what again?
I'm sorry. So you just want my background and kind of how I ended up here?
Yeah. Just tell us a little bit more about how you got into franchising, what made you choose Massage Heights, and kind of go into that journey
Gotcha.
a little bit.
Okay.
And then as you go through that journey, then we'll transition over to talk more about your business coaching that you're doing currently.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So career-wise, I have I consider it a very unique background. There are a lot of people that kind of stick in a particular industry or in a particular function within a space. My background is really diverse. Started out as a consultant and then kind of went back to grad school and got more into the financial side of things and worked at a private equity company. And it was there where I realized I really wanted to own a business of some sort. I used to think it was this thing that, people did that was just unachievable for me until I met the people that actually own the businesses. And then I was like, wow, no, I could do this too. And I got to see all different kinds of businesses, some very Midwestern boring businesses, all the way up to some VC funded tech companies from Silicon Valley. And when I moved to Austin, I decided that was when I was going to take my leap into business ownership. And I did for about 5 years through a B2B franchise, actually. And it was a unbelievable learning experience. And the reason I even bring that experience up is it was a business that I basically ran on my own. It was me and no one else. So it was a challenge. You realize quickly what you're good at, what you're not good at.
Yep.
You realize quickly the limits of kind of solopreneurship, because when you have a lot of activity, sales activity or business activity, you're working on that and you're not working on the other things you need to do. So it's very inconsistent. You get inconsistent levels of demand in business because you're not able to fill the pipeline while you're executing the business. And then I actually ran that company for 5 years and then kind of I just didn't refill the pipeline. I actually took a job
Okay.
and didn't let it refill the pipeline. So I was still running the business with my existing clients while having a job in the financial technology industry. And I did that for 6-7 years. Then the travel in that business, plus what every entrepreneur says, right? It's, I don't want to work for anybody. I want control over my life. I want financial freedom and time freedom. I was really feeling like I had no control over my life as far as the day to day and all the places I needed to go. Really, in the western half of the U.S., I was doing a lot of traveling. So it was toward the end of that where this opportunity came up, and actually came up through my father, to become a multi-unit franchise owner through Massage Heights. My father has been retired for many years, but he's the most active retired person I know, and he is a bit from a business perspective, and he's constantly
Yep.
finding deals and finding things to keep him busy and keep investing in. And he found this and thought, hey, this would be great. Why don't we do this and make it it's a kind of a family investment. And it was never really intended for any one of us, any of my siblings, to be the operator of the business. But after a period of time, I had left my previous role at the financial technology company. I was actually looking for a business to buy, and the family kind of came to me and said, hey, why are you looking for a business to buy when we have one here that honestly needs a little bit of help? Not that the existing person or people that we had running it were doing a terrible job, but it just wasn't realizing getting to where we wanted it to be. So I took that with the this isn't really the Cinderella story that, like I planned this for years and this is what I've always wanted to do. I took it over thinking it'd be a year or two project that I would work on and then move on to whatever the next thing was for me. And that was 8 years ago, and I'm still doing it.
Yep.
Now, in between, we know what happened, and there's COVID, and there's all kinds of craziness that has happened in the economy that has caused businesses to have to shift and figure stuff out, and ours was no exception. So all that said, that business now continues to run, but it runs with very little of my time anymore, which is, I think, where most business owners want to go. No one ever gets into
Oh, for
business to
sure.
be, yeah, no one ever gets into business to be the hardest working, lowest paid person. They would like to pull themselves out of the business, let everybody else kind of work, and they can leverage the whether it be equipment or money or people to grow and grow the business. And that's it took a while for me to get there, but I got there. And now I had time on my hands, which was weird because I hadn't had a lot of time on my hands. And I took inventory of my skills and my background and my experience, and also kind of said, okay, how much longer do I want to work, and what is something I can take possibly into retirement? And that's how the business coaching thing came up, because my background is unique enough where I could help a lot of different industries. I've got a lot of different industrial knowledge, but more than that, I know how to run a business, and I've actually run a business to the point where I don't need to be involved in it every minute of every day anymore.
And that's really the magic right there is when you can run a business to where it runs itself and you're able to step back from it. That really adds a lot of value. Tell me a little bit more about before we get too much in the business coaching side of things. I do want to hear more about that, but tell me a little bit more about the natural progression with Massage Heights. You started with, I'm guessing, one location, right? And then you grew it out to how many at its peak?
Well, when I came into the business, we had we were opening our third location. Actually, I stand corrected. We were opening our fourth location. So the folks that were running it before me had actually opened two in the Austin area, and we had purchased one in San Antonio. And then we were opening our fourth one, the third one in Austin, right around the time I started. So it wasn't a nice gradual ramp up for me
For you,
because
yeah.
because I jumped in and it was,
You're kind of thrust into it, and here you go. Here's four locations.
yeah, yeah. So that was that was a challenge, but it was, I mean, it was a challenge and something that how do I say this? A challenge and something that I didn't know a whole lot about. But that's why you get into franchising, which is I don't know a lot necessarily about this industry. I need some help, but I knew how to run businesses. I've seen businesses run. I've worked for some great CEOs and owners in my past. Like I knew how to run a business. So when I jumped into it, it was we had each individual location had a manager, but that was it. We had all the managers responded and answered to me, kind of, and reported to me, and I was involved in everything. Now, way more than they wanted me to be. I guarantee it. I knew every number of every location, and I had calls daily with all of them, and it was you know
That's a lot.
it was a lot. And our business is a 7 day week, so things don't just happen between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. in that business. Things happen all the time.
Yeah,
So
I
that
know
was a
that
that,
being in IT, that's definitely
yeah.
accurate.
Yeah, it usually happens Friday around 5 o'clock, because everything bad happens right around that time.
Yep. Just when you think the week's winding down, it's like, oh, it's the weekend. It's going to get relaxing. It's like, nope.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But the first thing I realized after trying to be that person that was involved in everything all the time was that I couldn't do it. So one of my first significant hires was hiring we call a regional manager, and the regional manager runs the day-to-day operations of our locations. And that is so basically I don't have to.
So
So
you kind of step back a little bit more.
yes, and we have a very great. Now, even doing that, by the way, for a lot of businesses, if you don't put rails or constraints around that, it's not going to change somebody's life. Now they've hired somebody that A, they have to train, and that B, may end up calling the owner all hours of the day and night and weekends, or when things are happening, which is exactly what you don't want. That's why you hired that person in the first place. Yeah. So there's some things I learned about that, because I still felt when I hired my first person, the first regional manager, that I wanted to know everything all the time. And then I realized, well, why did I hire this person if I want to know that? That doesn't make any sense. You have to hire somebody that you trust to take care of the things that it's not net where it's things that aren't necessary for you to hear about or know about. But there are some things that occur that are, and you have to have somebody that knows or has the discretion to go, okay, now I need to call the owner on this one.
Yeah, that's tough to kind of start letting go of the reins and having those other people
Well,
take that over.
and if you think about the mindset of somebody who started a business like yourself or myself, we do it because we have confidence that we can do it, because we like being in control. So yeah, releasing that control it's almost it's counterintuitive to our makeups, but it's unbelievably important to grow, and to in some ways have the life that you want to you hoped you would have when you started the business.
Yep. You can only take it by yourself so far before you have to then bring others that are capable to help you continue to grow it. Otherwise, it just gets to be overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And especially part of it wasn't hard for me in this industry because I knew nothing about the massage and facial industry. So it was fairly easy for me to hire people that knew the space, but also people um, that knew how to manage the types of team members that we have because they're just
Right.
different than anything I'd really experienced in my career just because of the types of places that I worked. Yeah, that was admitting and being okay with asking for help from people is very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it is, especially when you've been doing it so long on your own. How many years did you run it all by yourself before you started hiring the area director?
It was probably 2 to 3 years, if I remember correctly. And it was right around then. And we had opened another location. We had sold the San Antonio location, but we had opened a fourth
Yep.
location here in Austin. And it was right around then when we hired our first regional manager.
How long did it take you to get that person trained up? I know it kind of varies based on industry, but to bring them up to speed to where you could slowly start stepping away. And then what did that feel like once you finally weren't? Was it weird to just not have
Well,
phone calls coming in all times of the day and night? Joe this, Joe that, Joe the other thing. Help me, Joe.
yeah, well, with the first one, as great a person as she was, and as much as she knew the space, it didn't happen right away. Let's put it that way. That lifestyle of not being communicated to all the time. That still happened because I hadn't let go, and I also hadn't given her enough responsibility, kind of, to do it. It's a two way street. I can't say, yeah, go
Yep.
ahead, make the decision, and then get mad when she makes the decision. Right? You can't do it. It's not fair.
Yeah. And
So
that's hard. How do you instill the decision making that helped you get to where you're at already in this other person who's then going to need to continue to make the decision so you don't have to every day?
yeah,
That's the challenge.
yeah. Now, one of the things we did get right, and we have gotten right with this position over the years. So the first one we hired came from one of our competitors, so she knew the space very well.
Okay.
And that part was very much a positive. We had to change a couple things because obviously we do things differently than another franchise model might do it. So we had to kind of train there, but the training wasn't that difficult. We replaced that individual after about a year with somebody who had worked she was actually the first hire I made to run one of our locations back in 2017. And she had always had one of our best locations and was always and didn't need help, didn't need assistance. She just did the right things. She opened our newest location, and then at that point, I had promoted her up to be the regional director. So there wasn't a whole lot of training that needed to be done there either because she had gotten it throughout the years of just
Right. And moving up the
running a
ranks and
location.
whatnot.
Yeah, and she knew most of the employees anyway because she had worked at two of the locations, so she knew a lot of folks. But that she was the one that taught me how to be an owner and not be involved in it. She was the one that she had the confidence, I would say, and certainly the ability. She was extremely talented as far as being a regional manager, but telling me, "Hey, I got this. I don't need you to be involved in this right now. Just I'll call you when I need you." Just hearing that from her made me go, "Okay, it's okay for me to let go. It's not that I'm not supporting that person; it's that she's capable of doing it." And then there's the whole trust but verify thing, right? So I would let go, but I would follow up, not follow up like once a week. We'd go over all the issues we had, how were they resolved, and after that, just like any relationship, you build trust with each other, and it's very easy to let things go, and not be such a micromanager.
Yeah, and it's hard. I am a big believer too in the trust but verify. It's, frustrating when you start to let go of the reins and things aren't flowing the way you feel like they should. And you've got to kind of bring it back in a little bit and kind of refocus and maybe provide additional training, or maybe you have the wrong person in that position. You have to reevaluate that. So yeah, it can definitely be challenging, and you're used to running all the day to day and all of a sudden you shift to allowing somebody else to do that. The hope is that that person has had enough training. I think that's great that you were able to take somebody that was running one of the other existing locations. They've got all that background knowledge of how the company runs, they're doing it successfully. You've already seen that. So now it's just like, okay, instead of running one location successfully, you're taking it more of a step back and now you're running multiple locations successfully. And then she can put copies of herself in those locations to be the retreat directors.
Yeah, it's funny because the same conversation or the same issue that I was just talking about with the relationship between myself and the regional manager, I also had to kind of train her, like to say, look, you have to have that same relationship with your store managers, right? They're responsible for that store, and you can't necessarily, micromanage them to the point where they're not using their brains. Otherwise, why do we have them? So, and you'll go crazy because you have multiple locations, and you can't do that. But we set some structures up, and currently the way that we run it is I have a standing meeting with my regional manager once a week, lasts an hour and a half, and we go over everything, numbers, issues. And there are many weeks where we don't really talk much, if at all, for the rest of the week. Everything is dealt with in that meeting. And I encouraged the regional manager to do the same with their managers to some extent,
Right.
because
Keep things on track.
keep things on track from at a higher level, but she still needs to be around to be at the locations, um, just to make sure that things are being done, the processes are being followed. That's how you verify at the I guess you call it like the last mile. You have to be there to make sure that our front desk is communicating to our guests the right way, and massage therapists are filling out the proper forms and all that. So that has to happen at the
Right.
right there, and you have to be there to see that.
And providing a good level of service to the clients.
Yes, well, that's yeah, overall that's what it's all about, right? So it's easy to see numbers and go, okay, we're doing great, but we don't want to do numbers and not provide the level of service that's going to keep those numbers growing, right?
Yep.
You have to, in that world, you have to do it.
So as you grew these or added these other locations, besides the management of the locations as a whole, were there other challenges with finding or hiring employees or client acquisition, getting people in the door? Like, what challenges did you guys go through with that?
Well, you name it. We've gone through them all. So I'll answer that in a couple different ways. I mean, the time frame, the most recent 5 years time frame, has been a roller coaster as far as both supply and demand of things. If you think about,
Right.
2020, we had COVID, of course. Our locations were shut down for a couple months. Then we had people. It was a time where it was really hard to hire our people back. Then the following year, we had this insane level of demand. Like they were calling it like the roaring. Remember, they were calling it the Roaring '20s, right? Because there was a lot of money in the economy, and we had finally gotten on the other side of this, this event, and people were just very happy and enjoying life, and Austin was
Mm.
growing like crazy. And I thought that it was very easy. I thought the world was very easy all of a sudden. But all that does is mask some of the issues that you might have. 22, 23, money starts tightening up a little bit. People's aren't spending as much. And that's where you start to see the holes in what you were doing before that you couldn't help but win. Suddenly you're like, oh, wow, this doesn't work anymore. Also, in multi-unit ownership, it is harder than one person might think to get all three units moving in the same direction at the same time.
No, I can imagine. I see in different franchise systems, it seems like there's very few multi-unit owners. There's a lot that are like little onesie twosies here and there, but the ones that have been able to scale to 2 and 3 and 4, and to Jen's credit, I think she has like 8 now. Some of
Yeah.
those are purchased from others, but she has to then turn them around because the previous owner's selling them. It's either because they want to get out of the business or the business is not doing well. So it's an opportunity to pick up another location on the cheap. And if you know how to run them, you can turn them around and get them going in the right direction and make them profitable.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about our locations is they've all done well at different periods of time. They've all done really well at different. So getting all of them to be to be moving in the same direction, meaning if we did this type of marketing effort at all three, we'd have the same result. And that's not the case at all. We use Groupon every once in a while, right? If we offered the same number of Groupons at all three locations, one location would do 3 times the volume as another location. They just don't.
Interesting.
They act differently, and that's demographics are different at all the locations. So that's been one of the biggest challenges is getting them all to kind of be doing well at the same time. If they're whatever the challenges are, they're all, instead of it being one challenge across 3 locations, many times it's 3 different challenges, and you know that's just the joy of running a business.
Makes it a lot more difficult. Yeah, when you're experiencing different challenges at all 3 locations, then it's not just, "Oh, we just fix it at this one location, then we can implement the same fix at the other ones."
Right. Yeah, no, it's not like that at all. And marketing too. I mean, we've seen marketing messaging be more successful at certain locations than others. And yeah, it's just like there is no standard template that says if you do business this way, this is what you're going to do. You have to learn kind of the differences or the quirks almost about the individual locations and act accordingly.
Is it the demographics in the area that you think affect the
Yeah,
messaging and
at
everything?
our locations for sure. I think it's twofold. I think if there's a market that where the brand was better known, maybe think of it as a bigger percentage of overall spa and massage and facial locations. That is one component to it, and the messaging could be different there because people understand and recognize the brand and what it represents. We are a um, a fairly small player in our metro market, in the Austin metro market. So our messaging has to be different because not many people, relatively speaking, as a percentage of the population, have heard of our name.
Makes sense.
And then yeah, and then the other part is I mean we have a location in Cedar Park and one in Central Austin, and Cedar Park is much more of a family community. Um, it's a little bit more, shall I say, mature people. Mature meaning older, and where Central Austin is young, a lot of young people without either no families or very young families, and that's a
That's the one
different
that's near the
difference.
Alamo Draft House, right?
Yep, yeah, at the
Yeah,
Mueller location, yeah,
like a multi-use, commercial space.
yeah, it's the old airport redevelopment of the old airport.
Got it. Have you seen, based on what type of area it's in, one's more successful than the other? I know you had some challenges with getting employees at I think it was the Lakeway location. Even that's a very nice area.
Yeah, that was a so one thing. So Lakewood is our very first location. It was a location that we ended up having to close down, and we closed it down because there was I'll call it an imbalance between supply and demand. So the
Right?
demand there was very strong, but the supply, meaning the number of therapists that we could get out there, was um, very low. It was in a part of the way that it was in a part of the area that doesn't have any or has very few kind of lower cost or reasonable places to live. So to get there, somebody would have to commute across town, basically. And Austin traffic is not the most fun traffic to be dealing with.
Yeah, I've
And
dealt
they
with that before. It's not fun.
passed 10 other places they could work, or maybe 50 other places they could work along the way. So it was always a struggle there to get the supply. So that was a supply demand imbalance. And it was one of the first things I learned. And when potential franchisees call me and talk about maybe a location they're thinking about, one of the pieces of advice I give them is don't just look at the demand for the product, look for the supply of the people that are actually providing the product. Otherwise, it's like having a store shelf with no products on the shelf.
Yep. And that's not necessarily something you think of at the beginning, because you think of, okay, who am I selling to? I'm selling to these clients. What kind of client am I going after? I'm going after people that have disposable income, which means it needs to be in a more affluent area, i.e. Lakeway. Lakeway is a very nice area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense to put a location there.
Yeah. As long as you can figure out how to get people to work out there.
Yep.
And I actually at one point was looking at, is there a way we can buy housing for them? And then just add that as part of our cost of employment, but it just financially it wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, that was a very unique challenge. And not every city is like that, but it certainly was a situation there.
Right, because Lakeway is kind of a little bit off by itself, more separated from the rest of the city. It's not, just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But yeah, I remember it's very nice. There's a Keller Williams that we used to support that was up in that area as well. And so it was always a nice drive over there and very nice area. And
But it's beautiful, and there's Lake Travis is right there, and there's
yep,
a lot of reasons to want to live up there.
for sure, for sure. But you got to be able to afford to live up there.
Yes,
That's the key. So,
absolutely.
well, enough about the massage height stuff. Tell me a little bit more about your business coaching. I know you got your massage heights business kind of squared away, and that was running itself, so you're able to kind of step back a little bit. And I know you just don't want to sit around and twiddle your thumbs, so you're looking for
Nope.
something to do, and you decided I want to give back to the business community, and you wanted to do business coaching. Tell me a little about.
Yeah, so I know. So first of all, business coaching is kind of a weird term because I don't think anybody really understands what it's about. And quite honestly, I'm not sure I understood what it was about when I started, or before I started looking into it. But once I learned about it, so I've looked at becoming a business coach multiple times over the last 10 years. It's just like, hey, this seems like something that I can do. It seems good for my background. I could help people through the tough times that I've dealt with, both with this current business, but also with the previous business that I mentioned. And I just started better understanding, better learning what it was. I'm like, man, I wish I would have known about business coaching 20 years ago so that I could have used it in my business. Because as I said, you realize quickly the limitations of being a solopreneur. Um, is there are many. You're really just discussing problems and issues with yourself.
Right.
You're not getting another perspective. There are also some procedures that can be followed that can help you through that kind of stuff, even if you are doing it by yourself. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying. As I was doing my research and kind of looked into what is business coaching, what kind of business coaching do I want to do? There's multiple. There's many different ways to do business coaching. There are many programs to do it, including some franchises. And I had read a book. Somebody recommended I read a book about 4 years ago, and it's not coincidental that I read that book, and things got better for me with my current business. It's a book called Traction. Traction is an operating system that helps
Yep.
you run a business, right? And I read that, and it was great. And I looked into maybe do I want to do that kind of coaching? Do I want to teach people how to run a business meeting? How do you run a meeting? How do you set goals? All of that. That's kind of one world. But I am much more of a down to earth, day to day kind of get stuff done type person. Let's implement things that I can see, feel, touch, and see the results of, and all of that. So I found another program that is the one that I'm currently coaching on. And I figured I would start here and see where coaching takes me. And this one is a program that basically finds ways to grow a business, sometimes by 20, 30, 50 percentage points in a very short period of time
Oh,
using little to no marketing spend. And it just kind of resonated with me because it's very process based, it's implementation based. So where I can, here, you go do this, and then I hope you do it. That's one type of coaching. What I do with the help of this program is take people through step-by-step steps, small steps through to implement something that might take 4 weeks to do. But by setting it up as doing a step a week, you're sure not to miss anything
right.
because you don't just jump from step 1 to step 3 or start on step 7, right? You have to actually get through it piece by piece.
It's more gradual, makes it a little bit easier to take it
Bite-sized
on in
pieces.
chunks.
Yeah, bite-sized pieces. I mean, I don't know how many business owners think they can spend time thinking through things, or they're constantly overwhelmed with everything there is to do, and the thought of slowing down and like, okay, I'm just going to work on this. I'm going to implement this type of strategy. They don't find the time to do it. They end up dropping not doing it because they just get overwhelmed with it.
Yep.
So what I do is basically walk them through little bite-sized pieces, and I don't let them get ahead of it. Sometimes they want 2 steps, and I say, no, just do the one. I'd rather do the one well than two not very well.
Oh, agree.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been a lot of fun, and it's something I get great fulfillment out of because I could see people as I'm working with them. I mean, honestly, as I'm talking to them before I'm working with them, I can see them kind of go, "Oh, there is a way out. There is a way I can not be so overwhelmed all the time, or I can grow my business." And so that part is very fun for me.
So, what uh, approximately how many clients are you working with? What does that time frame look like? Do you coach them indefinitely? Is it like a 3 month, 6 month, 12-month program? What does that look like? Can you tell our viewers a little bit more?
Yeah, so the client types are all over the place. So meaning most of the strategies that I can help with would work across any industries. And as an example, I have a client that is a 1099 sales contractor. That's what he does. He has products that he sells, and he is trying to figure out what makes him different. Why would people even pick up the phone when he calls? And he's trying to work through all of those. So I'm helping him through that. But then there are also business owners that might have $3-4 million in revenue, maybe a couple service teams in the trades, let's say. And they got into the business because they're very good at being a plumber, very good at being a tradesman, and not really because they know how to run a business very well or have even thought about half of these things. And those are the folks that, yeah, and those are the folks that are a lot of fun because they're already pretty successful. I mean, a several $1 million business is fantastic, right? They've got teams working for them. That's fantastic. But they're getting overwhelmed with everything because of all of that, because they
Right.
have 15, 20 people working for them. And and the
Yeah, you
engagements,
always think as a business owner, you're like, "Oh man, if I could just get to this, revenue level or whatever." In your head, you think like all my problems are going to be solved. It's like, no, there's just new problems.
yeah, that's a common belief, and you and I have probably both fallen for that more than
Yes.
once. But the engagements are anywhere from 4 months to a couple years in duration. It really does depend. I'm not a cookie cutter one that there's one solution for everybody, one size fits all. So I've worked on a 16-week. Let's figure out why you are different than everybody else, and let's figure out how to make your messaging different than everybody else. I've done that, and then that's all. That I've worked with the client. And then there's clients that as you go through it and you realize, okay, there are more of these strategies you can implement. And those, I mean, honestly, they could take years to do. So it really does just depend how that, and that's kind of how that engagement works. I also do have, because I hate to leave people stranded and I can't work for free or work for a small amount of money. I do have some do-it-yourself options as well that walk people through the process without my direct help. I'm always around for people, but without the scheduled times and all of that.
Yeah, it's nice to offer them different options. How successful have you seen the people that do it yourself? Have they seen a lot of good success, or probably the ones that are getting coached by you on a weekly basis are more successful, or it accelerates their success?
Yeah. So the dirty little secret in all of this, and nothing I'm not transparent, is that people are terrible at keeping themselves accountable. The do it yourself program, strict do it yourself program, which is here it is, go do it. The success rate is depends how you define success. Nobody ever makes it through the whole program. So I'll tell you that because they realize that they are not keeping themselves because they're not keeping themselves accountable. So they might get through the first couple steps and then they kind of drop it at that point, or call me and say, "Hey, I need something else," which is the dirty little secret that I'm going to tell you about is the accountability piece.
Right.
So when I do one-on-one coaching or even group coaching, there's a huge accountability piece. And as I said before, and I think you and I have talked about this before, and we get into business not to answer to people, right? So when we somebody says, or I decide I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, but then I might decide later I'm not going to do it because this came up or this came up or this came up. There is no accountability to anybody. If you were an employee for somebody and they said, do this, you would do it because the next week they'd say, is it done? And you'd say no, and then you'd be fired. So maybe that's a little extreme, but so there's a huge accountability piece to coaching that is not really used as a sales tool. No one wants to hear that they need to be held accountable, but that's the truth. And
Yeah, it's the reality of it.
yeah, so I have with a client before, I have given some work to do to be done the next week, and came back on the call the next week. I said, sure, did you do it? And they said no, and I said, well, it's going to be an expensive hour for you then because you're going to do it right here because it needs to be done. That's accountability. And
If it's part
that's
of the
good.
lesson plans and you have to do it to move to the next lesson, then and you didn't do it, guess what?
Yeah, and it's tough love is what it is because I don't want that person to fail. I
Yep.
failed if that person fails. So I have to do everything I can to support that person. And sometimes it's giving them a little kick to go, you said you
Then
wanted to
going
do
in the right
this.
direction.
Right.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's the relationships with clients in general is fantastic. And I love it when when you get in a certain you get in sync with each other kind of you're like, okay, we're gonna do that. I mean, that's great. Usually there's an evolution where is this gonna work? What am I doing? And then all of a sudden they see it and it's like, okay, I got it now.
Yeah, the gears kind of mesh together and it starts flowing forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. How long have you been doing the coaching for?
Formally as a business, I've been doing it for a little over a year. And I
Okay.
say it that way because coaching was something that um that I people had come to me for over the years for the last 20 years. I just didn't know what it was. I thought they were just asking me for advice and getting my opinion, and then suddenly I was helping them with business plans. I'd say, okay, do this week, and then we'll chat again next week, and I mean, that's
Yeah,
coaching, right? Yeah. So that's but the business coaching formally as a business in a structured manner has been a little over a year.
that's awesome. And what made you pick the particular program that you got involved with? Was it the system they had, the way that they apply the system? What about it really spoke to you?
It was a couple things. It was the system, both the actual like step-by-step system, but also there's, as you've seen it, the coaching system, the portal that where I work with my clients on also includes a CRM and several other things. That system I really liked. It spoke to me because there was no smoke and mirrors with it. It just kind of
Right.
is what it is, and that's how I am. I'm pretty direct and pretty blunt, and that's what it was. It was also a great starting point, I thought, because again, when I researched coaching, there's all different kinds of coaching, and I didn't know where to start. This was a good, well-rounded platform that focuses on sales, marketing, and operations versus there are some that are strictly leadership coaching, and there are some that are customer service support, like customer service coaching. And this just seemed like a great place to start and to build off of. And my plan with it is to add other specialties to it as I grow and join other programs and whatnot. But it's just it's a great part of it. Also, the people that are involved in it, we have other coaches that are all part of the program, and we have a optional daily call, but there's probably 40 people on it every day. And we get on there, we talk about issues, client issues, we talk about all kinds of things so it's a great support system. And then I also have a individual coach through that as well, because
Okay.
I practice what I preach. Everybody needs a coach. I believe that.
Yeah, that's important because you definitely don't want to be coached by somebody who doesn't practice what they preach. That's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah. It's
No,
like
yeah,
getting a
I
massage
like
from
that
somebody
when
who
you
doesn't
ran
get
me through the
massages.
you what?
It's like getting massages from somebody who doesn't believe in getting massages.
Yes, that's true. It's very true. I enjoyed going through the questionnaire the other day with you. There were a lot of questions I knew the answer to, and there were a lot of questions that I didn't. That I probably should have known the answer to. And so it's a little bit of a reality check and like, well, maybe you don't know your business as well as you think you do. So that's good. Besides that portal that you have, that's an interesting piece of technology. Obviously, I'm in the technology space and we also have a spin-off company that we have that does AI automations and workflow assistance and stuff like that. Curious to find out besides that platform that you showed me the other day that you were running me through the questionnaire, what other technologies do you use either on that side of things or maybe on the massage height side of things that you really enjoy using? And what kind of AI integrations have you thought of using or are you currently using in either business?
Wow. So I'll break it into the massage business versus the coaching
Sure.
business because they're very different. On the massage business, AI has crept in recently heavily. So it seemed like there was not a whole lot going on as it pertained to our business, and then suddenly it's everywhere.
Yep.
So we use AI. The franchisor has an AI tool that links all of the different pieces of information that we need to know in one spot. So if I need a process for this, what is the Massage Heights process for blank? I can go search for it somehow, or I can just type it into this AI tool and it will find it for me and bring it back. That same tool will
Nice.
go into my POS system and bring something back. It will go into another source of information and pull it back. So it's kind of a great place. That has helped me, but it has helped the managers at our locations way more. So that's been fantastically helpful. AI is creeping into the point of sale side of things as well. Currently, it's being used for kind of some call. I don't know how to say this. Not necessarily setting the appointments yet, although that's a matter of probably days or weeks away if I had to guess. But it's at least capturing information from a phone call or a text that we weren't able to get and provide it to our customer service team to be able to call and set up an appointment. So it's having an interaction with the outside with the guest. And then we've recently launched, or the franchise has, where it sends me a weekly AI generated report, kind of suggesting some things like based on your numbers, based on this, based on that, this is what we recommend you look at.
Hmm.
And that's been very helpful. Hopefully they will tweak that a little bit because there's some areas I think it could be very powerful and it's not using. it's not being used yet, but specifically with staffing and how we staff and utilization and versus requests for customers and all of that. We also have it long way. So it's a lot of ways to use AI. It's also analyzing our phone calls
Okay.
and grading them based on certain criteria so that we can tell, hey, was the lead that came in, was it a good lead or not? But then when the call came in, how did the person answering the phone do? Did they ask the right questions? Did it eventually turn into an appointment book? All of that. So then we can use that operationally to see, okay, is there a certain individual we need to coach better?
That makes
Or
a lot of
this,
sense too.
yeah,
On our AI side of things, we have a sales call analyzer that we're able to feed in discovery calls or any other meetings that we have, and it'll grade us on, hey, did you properly introduce yourself? Did you set the tone of the meeting? Did you then wrap it up at the end? Did you set a follow up time and date while you guys were on the call and all those kinds of things? It really helps you kind of fine tune your sales process. And I think that's awesome. I think grading the calls and helping the employee understand what they're doing right and maybe what they're not doing as well.
yeah, no, it's fantastic. Versus, I mean, think about without it, you'd have to go through every call and grade it yourself, right? I mean,
Yep,
that
that's
would be
true.
very time consuming given the number of calls we get in a day. On the coaching side, um, there are a couple tools that I've seen. So we have that's just the portal that you saw. It does have an AI component to it that I could utilize and say, maybe how should I respond here? Or what kind of things should I think about when I'm talking to this type of client? Or when we're trying to create you've seen the conversion formula and the messaging, so you understand what I'm talking about
Right.
when I say this, but many people won't understand. But does this message that the client is using match a good representation of the conversion formula? And if not, how can we tweak it? So it can be used in coaching that way. I'm assuming that some people are using AI to be coached. I would assume that's happening out there as well. I have not really used AI, nor have I've heard of it being used. And I know that some of the coaches in my program are exploring using AI to generate leads and to do the outbound, or at least receive the inbound calls, and sometimes even do outbound marketing. I haven't gotten there yet, but um, I know that it exists.
Yeah, one of the things we're looking into in terms of taking a huge leap in the right direction regarding AI, back to what you mentioned, practicing what you preach. If you preach businesses should integrate AI, you should also be using it as well. We're currently working on developing an automated inbound uh, re- AI receptionist that will be able to do some basic troubleshooting with the client, reboot a computer. It's funny these days, some of the frontline employees are they're raised on iPads, and so they don't really you never really reboot an iPad most of the time. You turn off the screen, right? But some people don't understand that's not actually restarting it. You have to actually long hold or go into the menu options and click restart. But
Right.
some of these employees that either are used to only having used like an iMac or something like that. They don't understand that the screen is not the computer. The little computer is sitting up underneath. And so when you say restart the system, you say, oh, yeah, yeah, I restarted it. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's still showing an uptime of 2 weeks. Are you sure you restarted it? Yeah, I turned the monitor on and off. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not restarting it. That's turning the monitor on and off, what you just said. So let's go ahead and so having the system do things like that, like, hey, asking the caller, what's your computer name, it looking it up in our RMM system, it then sending a reboot command, doing all those things automatically, coming back, okay, let's spec up, log back in again, and try testing your system to let us know whether it works. I'll wait on hold while you do that. And it kind of waits on hold. They do their thing, and then they come back. Oh yeah, yeah, it's working great. Or oh no, it's still not working. And it can try maybe one or two other things. And if it gets to a point where it's beyond the capability of the automated system to do troubleshooting, then it would throw them into a queue. Human counterpart would then pick it up, and they could take the ticket from there. The ticket would have the interaction already, the transcript from the call in there, so the tech could very quickly get brought up to speed. So they're not having to ask all the same questions or try all the same troubleshooting again.
Yeah. I think, you get into this happened in banking back when I was in that financial technology company. This happened, 2010, 2011, where I was working with a lot of small community banks, and they would all say, people want to talk to people. People want to talk to people. And I said, these are you think of what community bankers might look like. They're tend to have been in that bank their whole career, and they're, older and grayer than me. And they think like how they thought 30 or 40 years ago. What they don't understand is that people don't necessarily want to talk to people. They want to talk on their terms. Sometimes it's talking
Right.
to a person. Sometimes it's talking to AI. Sometimes it's finding it on FAQ. And we need to be there, right? Companies need to be there for that. And then you have to also discuss, I think, I'm sure you do, like the benefits of having that. So if you're talking to someone, so your first line of support is going to be this AI agents, right? This AI tool. They'll go, well, why? No, I want to talk to a person. It's like, well, you will have faster response time with an AI tool, and they'll take care of 97% of the problems. Or you can wait on hold for 5 minutes, talk to a real person, and end up with the same result.
Yeah, I would prefer quicker interaction for
And
sure.
24/7.
In 24/7, exactly.
Yeah.
The
So it's just a matter of communicating the value. But sometimes people think that everyone thinks how they think, right? Everybody wants this because this is how I've been doing it, and that's just not how it is, especially with other generations.
Right. And because we deal with varying levels of technical competency with clients and different preferences on how to contact us and interact, that's why we use options like, email if you want to send a ticket, or phone call, or text message, whatever's more convenient and, to your point, a preferred method of communication, allowing the person to choose, so they don't have to always call, they don't always have to email or text. They can choose how they want to interact with us, and it makes it much, much easier on everyone at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I feel like I've graduated through, with AI. Beginning of the year, I was using it to figure out what recipe to make with the three things that were remaining in my refrigerator. And now I've used it for so many things in so many ways,
Yep.
both, just in my personal life, but in running the businesses, that it's hard. I can't even think of a day where I haven't used it, 10
Yeah, it's
times.
extremely capable, and the quicker you learn to use it and leverage its capabilities, the better off you'll be, and ahead of others who are either resisting using it and or ignoring it altogether. Just to kind of wrap things up, since we're coming to the end of our time, what other
Mhm.
closing thoughts do you have, either in business, technology, AI, all of the above?
I'm not going to say anything about AI anymore because that I'm definitely not an expert in that, but I do realize the power and the value. No, the piece of advice I would give to really anybody on both sides in both those businesses is seek out help when you can get help. There's help out there for you, and things don't have to be as difficult as they are. I mentioned, that the reason I got into the business coaching side of things is because I did inventory of my background and my skills and all that. But it's also because I experienced the pain of not having it, and the impact it can have on families, health, on
Yep.
friendships, and all that stuff. It's significant, and I think there are ways for it not to be so difficult. There are ways to get advice. Now, plenty of people out there that want to help. So you just be aware of what you can control, what you can do, and what you can't, and that there are resources out there to help you get through all of that. It almost sounds like I'm talking about something, getting counseling or something, but it is, in a way, it is very similar. We don't want to admit that we need help with our business. Business owners are proud people.
Yeah, a lot of people are either unaware there's help, or too proud to seek out help, or think they can do it on their own. I mean, and you probably can. I was listening to a gentleman last night that he runs a AI consulting agency, and he also has a membership-based community that you can become a part of. And to his point, he's basically saying, yeah, you could probably watch all my videos and figure everything out. And eventually, may take you 3 or 6 months, may take you hours and hours of, messing around with N or whatever other automation platform you end up using, or you could be part of this valuable community, seek out help. And we offer, assistance with troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like with technology, as a business owner, you could try to be your own inside technology person that troubleshoots, every time the computer goes down. But if you as the business owner are doing that, are you really paying attention to your business? Or are you spending all your time troubleshooting technology? And that's where you have to figure out what your strong suits are and where your weaknesses are and seek help.
Yeah, and where do you want to
Help.
spend your time? What's the most productive use of your time? Is it dealing with all of those, those tasks and all those things, or is it getting help to get those things done so that you can focus on the things that are the most important? Yeah,
That's accurate.
one of the things you can't see behind me because got them blurred, but those are all marathon medals back there. I became a marathoner, and when I first started running in marathon in '09, no coach, no nothing. I'm just going to go run, and I barely made it to my first marathon because I got injured.
Wow.
And it wasn't. I made it, but there was a point there I'm never going to make it to the start line. Then I started getting coaching help. In fact, I actually became a certified running coach, and I
Really?
realized that there's ways to train smarter. And we all just think it's running. You go left, right, repeat. Right? That's running, but it's more than that. There's different systems in your body that develop at different rates, and there are different systems that you need working very well during a marathon that if you don't train them well, that's when you see people suffering. And it's amazing how much knowledge can help somebody in that endeavor. And I kind of equate business coaching in a similar way. It's like, okay, there are ways to do this that will get you there faster and safer and not hurt, not broken. So
That's very
I should change the
interesting.
name to my company to Marathon Coaching, but that would be confusing.
Well, I mean, marathon business coaching, that would probably be a
Yeah,
good one. I mean, running a business is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So
100%. And
I
you
think there's
can't.
maybe some truth to that business
And
name there. I like
oh, and
that.
if I equate so much to training for a marathon. You're not going to see big jump. It's a patient man's game. I mean, you have to do like week by week training, small gradual changes every week to get you there. And that's exactly how running a business is.
Yep,
You can do big whiplash changes every other week, but it's not going to be efficient, and it's probably not going to be very effective.
that's true. Well, Joe, I really appreciate all your time today and all your insight. I enjoyed hearing about your growth period through Massage Heights and then the business coaching and everything. It's always good to catch up with you and hear about what you're doing these days. And can you share with our listeners a little bit more about how they can connect with you if they're interested in finding out more about the business coaching?
Sure. The easiest way is just to go to my website, JTBUS for business. So it's jtbizcoach.com. And
Okay.
my email is joet@jtbuscoach.com.
Awesome. So yeah, if you guys are interested in business coaching, I highly recommend you reach out to Joe. Obviously, he knows a thing or two about running businesses if he can get 4 or 5 Massage Heights going and run them successfully. So I appreciate everyone listening to us today, and hopefully you found the content enjoyable and beneficial. So hope everyone has a great rest of their day.